Hello and welcome to and all. In this class, we will check out the next answer, that is mode. What is mode? What are its merits and drawbacks? This is SAQ 45. So we have finished with the merits and demerits of arithmetic mean. We have also finished with the merits and demerits of median. Now the next average, commonly used average, is the mode. And what are the merits and demerits of mode? Okay. Now what is a mode? Mode is that value which occurs most frequently in a series. It is a point of maximum concentration on a scale of values. So mode is also one of the positional averages. Okay, just like median, mode is also one of the positional averages. So if in a particular series the most frequently observed values in a particular series, the most number of times a particular value is occurring in a series, that value is called as the mode. Okay, now what are all the merits of mode? First one, mode is the term that occur most in the series. Hence, it is neither an isolated value like median nor its value like mean that may not be there in the series. So if if you take a series, then if a particular value is occurring more number of times, then it is more number of times a particular value is occurring, it is mostly representing the entire series. But whereas if you take a median, it is taking only the middlemost item. Whereas if you take a mean, it is a mathematical average. So whatever the value you arrive at after calculating the arithmetic mean, that particular value might not be there in the entire series at all. But mode is not like that, because mode is in that particular series, mode is that particular value which is occurring more number of times. Okay, then the second one, it is not affected by extreme values, hence it is a good representative of the series. This particular point, it can be a merit and it can be also your demerit. So it is not affected by extreme values, that is more, if one particular value is occurring more number of times, if the frequency is more of a particular value, then that particular value is considered as mode. So maybe some other values, it is whether that value is very high or it is very small or very large, then also the mode is not affected. So it can be an advantage and it can also be a disadvantage, because it is not representing the extreme values. In that way it can be a disadvantage. Otherwise it can also be a advantage, because it is not affected by that extreme values. Either it is a small value or either it is a very large value. Okay, then the third one, the very important merit of mode is that it can be found graphically. So any average, if it can be located graphically, that is one of the most important advantage of that particular average. So when you take arithmetic mean, you cannot locate it graphically, but whereas mode can be observed, located graphically by using histograms. It is possible to find out mode graphically. So because if it graphical representation is the simplest and is the easiest, and it is very easy to understand. Just by glancing, just by looking at the graph, you can observe, you can identify this is the modal value. But because it doesn't require elaborate calculations, otherwise what you have to remember so many data, so many numerical facts, if you have to calculate mathematically and present it in the form of a table. But whereas it is not necessary if any particular average can be located graphically. So mode can be located graphically as well as the median. Okay, then fourth one, for open-end intervals, it is not necessary to know the length of the open intervals, because mode can be found out even in case of open-end intervals. See, if you take mean, mean cannot be found out because you have to convert the open-end intervals into closed-end intervals. But whereas mode can be located, mode can be found out even in case of open-end intervals. Okay, then fifth one, it can also be used in case of quantitative phenomenon. In fact, mode can be used both for quantitative phenomenon as well as for qualitative phenomenon. Quantitative phenomenon, any numerical data, that is what we say is quantitative phenomenon. It can be used even for the qualitative phenomenon. See, quantitative phenomenon, more what is the consumer's preference. Okay, how many times the consumer, what is the quantity of that commodity being sold. Okay, which commodity is being the maximum number of times that is demanded, what is the which commodity has been sold in the maximum times, what is the volume of sales of that particular commodity, whether commodity X volume of sales is more or commodity Y volume of sales is more. And that is one thing. So that is a quantitative phenomenon. Or otherwise it can be a qualitative also, in the sense that whether the consumer is preferring commodity A or commodity B, whether the consumer is preferring Apple iPhone or the Android phones, which one the consumers are preferring, most frequently demanded phone is which one. So based on that you can find out the modal value. Okay, so that's why it is both in the quantitative as well as the qualitative phenomenon. And then sixth one, with only just a single glance on data we can find its value, it is simplest. So in mode, especially the individual series, mode can be found out by just by observation, just by looking at the series. Okay, this is the value that has occurred more number of times in this particular series, so this is the modal value. So very easily, very simply it can be identified. Okay, then seventh one, it is the most used average in day-to-day life, such as average marks of a class, average number of students in a section, average size of shoes, etc. It is a mode is the most practical average that is used in day-to-day life. Like this, all this, what is the normal average marks of the class, what is the average number of students, average size of shoes, average runs scored by a batsman. So all these are based on the mode, calculation of mode. Okay, now these are all the merits of mode. Now let us move on to the demerits of or the drawbacks of mode. Okay, now under that, the first and most serious drawback of mode is that mode cannot be determined if the series is bimodal or multimodal. See, sometimes mode cannot be determined, that is, it can be indeterminate, especially if the series is having more than one modal value. If the series is having more than one modal value, if there is two values are there which is occurring frequently, then we say it is a bimodal. If more than two values are occurring frequently, then we will say it is a multimodal. So it is, so you cannot determine which one is the correct modal value here. So especially if it is more than one value which is occurring more number of times in a particular series, then mode cannot be easily determined. Okay, then the second one, mode is based only on concentrated values. Other values are not taken into account in spite of that big difference with the mode. In continuous series, only the lengths of class intervals are considered, because mode is a positional average. We are not taking into account all the other values. That's what the same thing which we have seen in the merit comes as a demerit. So it is taking into consideration only the values which is occurring more frequently. It is not taking into consideration all the other values, all the other extreme values, all the other values which are represented in the series. Okay, and third and fourth, mode is most affected by fluctuation of sampling, and mode is not so rigidly defined. If different methods are used to solve the problem, the results won't be the same as in the case of mean. So these both are the demerit is together. See, for example, mode is not rigidly defined. See, if you take arithmetic mean, it is rigidly defined. You have a certain formula, you have a certain method of calculating. So whoever is calculating the arithmetic mean, the answer will be the same, the final result will be the same. But it is mode, the formula is not rigidly defined, because there are several methods. Observation method is there, grouping method is there, and graphical method is there. So any method can be taken, or any method can be taken for in the case of sampling. Okay, so different methods are used by different individuals. So when the samples are collected, each person is taking a different method to collect the samples. So the answers might deviate. There will not be one single answer. Okay, the answers deviate depending upon the which method is taken for sampling. So it is not rigidly defined. The answer might not be the same. Then fifth one, it is not capable of further algebraic treatment. So it is the same like median. Mode is also incapable of being put into further use, further mathematical calculation, because you don't whatever the modal value, that cannot be used for any other calculations. Okay, so that's why it cannot be used for further algebraic or the mathematical treatment. Then sixth one, we can call it as the representative value only if the number of items is too large. Only if the number of items are too large, one or two values might occur most frequently in a particular series. But if it is very small, I mean, then then you cannot find any mode in that very the series is very small. Only if the series is very large, it is possible to find the modal value. Okay, so that these are all the drawbacks of mode. Okay, so I hope you have understood clearly what are all the merits and demerits of mode. If you find this video useful, please like, share and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any doubts, please mention it in the comment box. Okay, so until my next class, take care. Bye bye.